Good morning, true crime friends. Okay, today we're going to talk about the state of Michigan versus Megan Joyce Imirowicz. I think that's how you say her last name. Y'all, this is a domestic drama. It's a DV case, right? And so I was like, okay, in my understanding, domestic violence is usually like spouse on spouse or like parents on children, but I think that's child abuse. I don't even know. In this case, Megan is accused of throwing lye and water on her father and burning him severely. And I was like, well, this seems pretty cut and dry. She threw it or she didn't throw it. Like, what's the big deal? This case is taking some twists and turns, but not in the way that I would have expected. First of all, it is terribly heartbreaking. Okay, so Megan was living, I guess, part-time with her dad. I'm not entirely certain if she lived there all the time or part of the time, but she was at her dad's house. She has her 18th birthday, right? And the dad is a severe alcoholic, severe. At 10 o'clock in the morning, he was super drunk. 10 o'clock on like a Wednesday or something, weekday. And I'm like, well, maybe it was his day off. I don't know. Bless his heart, because that's not a good situation to be super drunk early in the morning. She's like, I'm trying to go to my birthday party. I got to get my hair done. Then I got to go to the hotel, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, nah, girl, I'm too drunk to drive you. That's not going to work out. And so she basically had a temper tantrum. Now, in addition to him being an alcoholic, he had I'm not sure if the house was just like dirty, filthy, because everyone's like, oh yeah, the house was a mess. The house was a mess. And I'm like, it needed to be dusted, or you had to like step over stuff to get through. I'm leaning more towards like you had to step over stuff to get through. There was garbage everywhere. Also, the house was infested with fleas. Okay, fleas? Hearts makes a flea and tick collar. There are pills you could take. Yes, you have cats. They're indoor, outdoor cats, fine. But there's some like basic care things that you can do to prevent that from happening. But okay, fleas. And you can, I can't even imagine fleas. Like, honest to God, I have two dogs, and my dogs have one dog had a tick one time and I freaked all the way out, but it was just because it was at the end of the lifespan of her little pill or whatever. Child, we're not doing the bugs in the house. We don't roll with bugs in the house. But anyway, beside the point. But the fleas to me is an indication of how filthy the house was. And everybody who spoke was like, yeah, they said everything from like, oh yeah, it was always a trash heap in there to, it was a little messy, like depending on who you ask. Okay, so she got really mad because dad was just like sleeping naked on the couch. Lord, I hope he was wearing like boxer shorts or something, but everybody says he was naked on the couch with a blanket over his, man bits, taking a little nap. Megan got mad. And she's like, I can't believe this, blah, 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 blah. Throws a big tantrum and starts throwing everything she could find at him. Garbage. She's throwing garbage at him. Now, those were his words. And now, according to her, she threw some bread, slices of bread, or a whole loaf of bread still tied in the bag. Somebody asked me what kind of bread, and I was like, child, with the fleas in the house and everything, this was not homemade bread. This was day-old store-brand bread, but bread nevertheless. Hair dye, all kinds of garbage, and a lot of liquid. Now, they're not saying it's water. They're saying liquid. Okay, but one of the friends who testified was like, it's probably about a gallon. A gallon of liquid? That's a lot of liquid. And then somewhere along the line, the dad said, she threw cleaning products at me. Okay, like Comet, like Tide, what'd she throw at you? So she threw this cleaning product, which we now know was probably a bottle of caustic lye, which is ultimately what causes death. So she throws the lye, calls her friend, she's crying, she's mad. Now, this is key. She called her friend at like 10 o'clock in the morning to say, I'm mad at my dad, I did these things, can you come and pick me up, blah, 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 because she thought her father was fine. She was just mad. And of course, he went on back to his drunken nap there on the couch. But after she threw all the things, he didn't get up and clean things, because if you got fleas in your house, you're probably not worried about garbage on the floor. That is just my estimation. No judgment. Okay, I'm definitely judging her. You can need to dust. I live with kids. I live with people, dogs, whatever. My house can be messy and there's like stuff, but it's like garbage and a gallon of water. And you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to chill here with the gallon of water and all the garbage and the fleas. Okay, sir. So she left and she said her father was perfectly fine. Okay, according to Dad, he then proceeded to drink for the rest of the day, but there's water on him and there's lye on him. Now, lye will burn you just like from touching your skin. This is my understanding of it. But if it gets wet, it causes an exothermic something or other. It gets really, really hot and can get up to 200 degrees. That's real hot. But he continued to drink and nap on and off all day. Okay, so at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a friend came over to pick up something from the house for Megan, and Dad was severely burned. So 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 4, 5 hours, he laid there with lye and water on his skin. Now, and at some point, he rubbed it in his drunkenness, I'm sure. In terms of like how drunk he was, 3 times the legal limit, like 3.8. And they said that he might have died either from alcohol poisoning. Initially, like there on the scene, he could have died from alcohol poisoning. He could have died from the lye just itself, from the burns. People were shocked at the hospital that he wasn't dead from alcohol. I was like, dang, this is a situation. So as he laid there for those many hours, drunk and passed out on the couch, he was like rubbing it on himself, of course, making the situation worse. He had lye on his hands. He had lye on his head, on his torso. His legs had turned green. His fingers had turned purple, and his nails had peeled back. This is like a horror movie. A friend who came to the house, one of the kids' friends who came to the house, said, oh yeah, he looked like a walking corpse. Yikes. The cops get there. So one of the girls comes over, Megan's friend comes over to pick up a credit card from the dad. And she's like, sir, you don't look good. And he was like, yeah, my hands hurt. Okay. And so she was like, I don't know what to do. There's a corpse in the house. And so she called her mom. Her mom was like, child, I do not know. You know how them alcoholic people, was this fleas? You got fleas? You're not bringing fleas in my house. So she was like, the mother was like, call her brother? I don't know. So then Megan calls and Megan was like, did you get the credit card? And she's like, no, but your dad is like not in good shape. And Megan is like, fine, call my brother. Which that response, I mean, she's still mid-tantrum. She's mad because he's drunk. But I was like, okay, she clearly did not grasp the severity of the situation. Also, the friend was a little childlike. Oh, I got something on my eye. I don't know like what the deal was with this friend. The friend was like, hi, my name is whatever my name is. And he did not look good. And I'm like, okay, I can't imagine her communicating the urgency that was afoot, because it's like, okay, you got fleas, you have a corpse, you have piles of garbage. And she's like, oh, I don't know. Girl, call 911. That is what 911 is there for. Like, just get the professionals over there. So she's like, I just waited outside. Strong move. That was her strongest move. But she called the brother. The brother was like, okay, my dad is not looking good. Call 911. Later we find out that dad is so frequently drunk that he frequently hurts himself. He falls down, and then Megan is responsible for like picking him up and making sure he's okay and checking things out. And I was like, oh, that's why she was not initially alarmed when she got this call that her father was not looking good, because all the time she's rescuing daddy. She's like picking him up off the floor, keeping him alive. Child, that's just a Tuesday around here. So get his credit card pin number. Come on down here. Let's get this liquor and let's go and have this 18th birthday party. Girl, you're 18. You're not supposed to be using nobody's credit card, but whatever. So they take him to the hospital, and at the hospital, they like, oh, sir. And they kept asking him what was wrong. He was like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. At the hospital, they said he was so burned, they had trouble getting an IV in him. They finally get him like decontaminated and rinsed off, and they called poison control. And he's like, well, I did set off a bug bomb a couple of days ago. Maybe that's what did this. So the nurse was like, boop, 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 boop. Hey, poison control, could a bug bomb have done this? And poison control was like, nah, because that would be the lungs. This is on the skin. Keep checking, dude. So the nurses keep checking, and then the nurses, sneaky little nurses, were overhearing the conversation that was happening between Conrad, that's the dad, and his son and the son's roommate. This roommate, I have questions. Was that his boyfriend? Listen, you know I have no problem with gay people. But I was like, they described themselves as roommates, but he was like family. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't gay. Whatever. He was cute, though. And he had his hair in French braids. It's not every day you see a man with his hair in French braids, but maybe he's just like a free-thinking dude. And he's like, I'm going to show up in court with my best French braids. Child, it's better than the cut-off hoodies that we see and the trucker caps and everything else. Hey, West Virginia, I'm talking about y'all. So the friend was like, I'm talking to him. He's not saying much. And then the son comes in. The nurse is like, let me just lurk over here back in the corner and see what I can overhear. So the son comes in and the son is like, Dad, tell me what happened. This son, Austin, very, very, he's only like 19 or something like that, but very grown up, very like a parentified child. Also, that's what happens when you have alcoholic parents. You kind of got to grow up a little faster. So Austin's in charge of everything. And he was just like, Dad, what happened? And this is what Austin said. Now, Austin was hostile as anything. Every time the lawyer asked him a question, he was like, I don't know. I don't remember. That's not what happened. What does the definition of is mean? Like, he just was questioning every little thing. He was testy. So when Austin was talking to his dad, he said to his father, did Megan do this? If she did, you don't have to cover for her. Oh, so there's a history of Megan doing naughty things. Okay, I got you. So the nurse is lurking in the background, and he said, Conrad said, Megan threw white powder on me. The nurse was like, oh. Child, we know what happened. So apparently, if you're a nurse, I mean, obviously they're mandated reporters. If they think something terrible happened, then they have to report it. I just never thought about the process by which that reporting happened. But the way they report it is they call 911. Y'all at the ER and you call 911. That's curious to me. But I kind of understand why they do it that way, because 911 calls are always recorded. The record is kept for a long time. It can't get lost in the shuffle anywhere. So this nurse is like, boop, 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 boop. Hey, 911, I have a patient here. I'm down at the hospital, and I believe he's been assaulted. Because initially it's like, did he fall in the lye? Did the lye spill on him? He was so drunk, he didn't notice, whatever. Nope. The daughter threw it on him. And so I personally believe he exacerbated it because he was drunk and he rubbed it in and whatever. He didn't seek treatment immediately. He laid there for 5 hours with lye on him. Okay, so the nurse calls 911 and says, yeah, he's saying that his daughter threw some caustic substance on him, and that is the source of these burns, because nobody could figure it out. And the family, of course, went immediately into denial. The brother on the stand was like, well, I don't think my father drank that much. He drank no more than regular people, and Megan sometimes did things, but they weren't that bad things. And I was like, I see the family dynamics. And then they asked this kid about his mom. He wasn't a kid. He was a young person, a young adult. They asked him, they were like, who's, Julie Smith, whatever his mom's name is. And he was like, that's my mother. Oh, I see you, Austin. You're not close with either one of your parents. I don't know what the deal is with the mama, but the daddy who's living over there with the fleas and the lye on his legs, okay, you're not trying to mess with none of these folks. They asked him about his other siblings, and he was like, I haven't spoken to them in 4 years. Okay, but Austin is a daddy's boy, and good for him for being a daddy's boy. He took care of his father the best he could. He was there for all the medical decisions and all the care. But because the father's health was so seriously compromised by his severe alcoholism over many years, he had trouble healing, and he kept getting infections, infection after infection after infection. And ultimately, he had lung adhesions. I'm practically a doctor. I know all kinds of medical words. But a lung adhesion is when, now listen, actual doctors, this probably is not exactly right, but stay with me here. I'm trying to explain it for the lay folks, because I'm a doctor of everything you can learn on Google and by watching true crime. The lung adhesions mean he kept having infections in his lungs, and scar tissue built up, and ultimately the lungs kind of melded to the wall of the chest cavity. Ew, that's going to make it hard for you to breathe. And ultimately, that's what killed him, right? He had infection after infection. And they were like, we took care of the burns, but now there's infections in those burns. And he has a bad heart and bad kidneys and bad everything from all these years of alcoholism. And so it's making it harder for blood circulation and for him to heal. So when the infections come, we have trouble getting rid of them. So they cut off one leg to help with the infections. And they were like, okay, maybe he's going to get better now. And then they had to cut off the other leg. And then ultimately he was like, listen, it has been 5 months. I'm laying up in this hospital and I'm not getting any better. Can I please just die? And the family was just like, oh God, okay. And so Austin and all of his really good friends brought Dad home and made him comfortable. I hope the fleas were gone by then. There is every indication that the house didn't get cleaned up. I mean, I assume that like the lie got cleaned up. I don't know. Or Austin, maybe you brought him home to your house. Unclear. But they brought Dad home to a house, not sure which one. It was reportedly still a disaster and a mess. And he lived for 3 days and then he passed away. And the kids were all sad and crying. And Megan was crying. And the brother was trying to power through it, but it was not a good situation. The medical examiner got up there and he was like, look, I don't know none of y'all. I'm just going to tell you what happened, okay? And what had happened was he had all these health problems. The acid made it worse. And now he's dead. Quick and dirty. You done with me? I'm done. I can go? Okay, because it's a golf game out here. Okay, great. Y'all have a great day. Bye. So when we ended the day, there was a video played from Megan. Now, none of these people, they had all these friends, all these little high school friends. Nobody is friends with anybody anymore because all the friends who showed up are like, I'm a former friend of Austin. I'm a former friend of Megan. How come none of y'all friends no more? Megan says in her video that she sent to her friend, let me back up a little bit. Her friend was like, hey, we're going to work on a school project together. And she's like, I've been going through a lot. Did you hear what happened? And he was like, no, I didn't hear what happened. Tell me. So she was like, okay, so I got mad at my dad. And so she told the story about I threw bread and I did this and I did that. But nobody was there. They didn't see it happen. They're just saying I did it. They always blame everything on me. Megan, girl, I get the feeling you're kind of a spoiled brat and a pain in the neck. This dude was like, then I didn't speak to her after that. He was like, I was just trying to get my money for this school project because she said she was going to pay me to help her. And she didn't have the cash. So I was like, oh, okay, well, good luck with your jail, whatever. And so she's like, I hope it all works out okay. I don't know. Megan, girl, you going to jail. I don't know if you know, but the state might not have as solid of a case as they think. Sounds pretty cut and dry, right? Seems pretty cut and dry to me. The nurse who was the first person to report that like, oh, the daughter threw this stuff on him. The nurse is the reason that they had the goods. At the time, this nurse who is very professional, has all this trauma experience or whatever, although he'd never seen anything like this. In his notes, he made copious notes of everything. And what he said was his patient was attacked. He did not specifically say white powder. So when he calls 911, he just said, my patient was assaulted. In the notes, he said somebody threw something on the patient. But I guess to get these burns, you need a combination of water and the lye to make it as bad as it got. And yes, there was water on the floor, but I mean, listen, this is a circumstantial case. It's a pretty decent circumstantial case, but if they wanted to see their way to let Megan get off, they could see their way to let Megan get off because according to the defense attorney, he was like, wait, you took all these notes. You wrote down every detail. You said your patient was assaulted. You didn't say anything about white powder till we just got here in court today. And he was like, yeah, I remember white powder. Okay, sir. I mean, I can see where this case would be memorable because you have never seen this before in your 14-year nursing career. But white powder was never mentioned until you got here now. So the state of Michigan has charged her with assault, I guess aggravated assault, resulting in death. They've also charged her with domestic violence, and they've charged her with like battery or something else. And the way the lawyer explained it was battery, one's assault and one's battery. Child, don't remember which is which. But one of them is when you do something with the intent to cause harm or scare somebody, but like you go to punch somebody, but that punch doesn't connect, that's assault. If it connects, that's battery. So I think they pretty much proved that she threw something at him, even if it was just bread and water. Like, that's not good. That's your daddy, girl, even if he does live with fleas. But I don't know that they can put all these pieces in a row. Yeah, we see the results of what happened, but he's a drunk man who fell down and hurt himself all the time. Could he have been stumbling around? He stayed there for the rest of the day, stumbling around, drinking. And when the friend came, he was sitting up on the couch, looking for his phone, talking to people. And Megan was like, when I left, he seemed fine. So I could see where they could get to convicting her, but I could also see a way for her to walk on the most serious charges. Now, this is her first offense as far as I know. Domestic violence is actually not a felony. It's a misdemeanor. So if she gets convicted, if on court TV they're saying she faces a maximum of life in prison. Okay, but what is she likely to face? If convicted, 3 years. My opinion, based on kind of nothing, a fine, couple of years in prison. She's young. She's going to be able to go on with her life. Now, the amount of therapy she's going to need, is she going to start taking heavy drugs based on the guilt? Oh, yeah. Excellent chance of that. Whatever prison she goes to, if she goes to prison, I hope they get her a lot of therapy because, girl, the only way for you to not end up like daddy, dead on the couch and ruining your life with alcoholism or drug abuse or whatever, you going to need a lot of therapy. A lot of it. Good luck. This case wraps up definitely this week. The state says they're going to rest on day 3, which is technically today. So, but I'll cover it in the morning. But the state says like, yeah, that's all our witnesses. And then they have the defense is bringing in some witnesses. If they can find somebody to say like she was mad, she had tantrums, but she said in her video, I would never do anything to hurt my dad. She said that after the fact, though, after she'd spent a couple nights in jail. So I would have my story all the way together, too. I was not there. You didn't see me. I don't know nothing. The interesting thing about this case, though, is that it doesn't rely as heavily on like cell phones and data fencing and all that other stuff. This is just a simple, like, assault, straightforward. This is the first case I've seen in a long time when they didn't have the Twitter people up there and the cell phone experts up there and the Snapchat people up there. It's just a bunch of folks telling their side of the story. And then, of course, I'll break it down and tell mine. Okay. If you like this content, like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. And then tell a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend. As I mentioned before, I'm going on vacation soon. And so soon there will be not live everyday updates, but I'm going to like record some stuff and then set it up so you get a little something every morning, a little true crime every morning, because you know you can't start your day without a little true crime and gossip. And that is what I am here for. Your gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Y'all have a great day. Bye.